Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know who I'm speaking to.
Hello there, you sexy beast. You.
I like when you talk dirty.
Mud, sand.
How's it going?
Good, and you?
Chilled, dude. Chilled, man. So what
That's
you been
good.
watching lately?
Besides work and that, I kind of had my usual thing going where, if I'm not hitting the YouTube, catching up on some YouTube channels and the likes thereof, this week it wasn't a lot of like podcasty stuff, whereas last week was a lot of Joe Rogan, Kevin Smith podcasts. This week I found myself hitting a lot of comic book related stuff.
Cool.
Near Condition, another Canadian guy, the hardcover, I forget the name, I'll put it in the comment there. He's done a few reviews on some stuff, which is pretty cool. And then kind of had my usual things playing in the background while I was pottering around doing things. So Elementary still going now and then, Brooklyn Nine-Nine in the back end.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine is good background material. It's an amazing series, but yeah, it is like it's good to also just have in the background and catch that odd joke. It's so replayable, dude. Like
totally. Terry loves Nine-Nine.
yeah, dude. I've actually, it's funny enough, like, you know, we mentioned in one of our previous videos, but like I've been limiting myself on social media because of just, it's rough right now. So I try and stick to my very small little routine. So I've been keeping up on PlayStation news and some comic stuff. But even in there's a lot of like negative news. So I've kind of been, it's been tricky to like negotiate through that and be like, I just want to stay positive. But yeah, dude. And that's come with a lot of South Park because that just, it zooms me in on that series and like, you know, like I forget about the rest of the world. I mean, if they can rip off this, then like, you know, or anything that they go, it's like there's still hope for us to be, you know, creatures that can say things and not take it like, you know, personally and laugh about anything.
Yeah, 100%, man. That show is still. Don't get me wrong. I think every show has those episodes that are like okay, semi-miss episodes, but every now and again, man, and especially with South Park, they just nail it. Though that how they take one idea, mesh it with another idea, have one main plot and a couple subplots in an episode, and they just, there's so many episodes where they just nail on the head, bang it, and you just, that message is delivered.
Yeah, have you watched the newest Rick and Morty eps?
I have, and I think the season's done now. I think.
Oh, wow, okay.
Traditionally they normally have about 10 episodes a season, and I think they're on 10 now. The last one last week was the 10th episode.
Because I haven't been looking at the numbers, but I watched the most recent one I watched, which I think is the most recent one, where he has a clone of his daughter.
Beth, and then it gets hectic, cosmic with all this kind of stuff in it.
Yeah, it was a cool episode. I enjoyed it. It was, you know, hectic and like wrecked him at the end, and it like had this like downer thing. But yeah, it's
Emily,
cool.
dude, with Bird Person and all of that. Yeah, man.
And then another show
that show is still good, man. It still brings it.
No, 100%, dude.
I've also been watching a lot of Community. That was Dan Harmon's first show, and that's also another show that I can have playing in the background. And you know, the first season of that show was okay, but season 2 onwards, man, those guys hit their stride. They have certain regular episodes every season that a good show tends to have, like a Halloween episode or where the campus goes crazy with paintball episodes. They experimented where they had some stop motion animation episodes. They had one episode that was all done in 8-bit, almost like Nintendo type graphic. I mean, that show was just so ahead of its time. I love Community. Sorry, you were going to say something else about another show.
And it's, I know some people have opinions on the show, but I watched obviously they've got a new season that I didn't even know about, but it's a total like teen show. It's called 13 Reasons Why. I don't know if you've watched any of it.
I have not.
And one thing I can say is like, so the first season, I don't know if you know the ballpark of what the idea of the show is about.
I do not.
Okay, so what happens is in the season 1, it quite clearly states to you what it tells you that this girl basically has killed herself.
Okay.
and the story plays out, and she leaves a series of tapes to talk you through her story. Now, the problem is a lot of people were instantly put off because it seemed like they were sensationalizing suicide, which it is very easy to see that. But one thing I can say, it's still my favorite season of the seasons. They're in season like 4 now. And it is, you could argue it's one of the shows that should have ended after season 1, but I do think they've done well to sort of try stay relevant in each season. And I'll explain why now. But I think there's a few moving parts to me that enjoyed that show. Is the creative side of how they like told it through these tapes, and it was this old school audio thing that she used, and it's her voice narrating it even though she's dead, and you still invested in her story. And one thing I can say is that I know it might seem that way, but they take it very seriously. They've got like warnings before, and they're saying if anyone feels like they need help, and they call this number for counseling, they take the topic very seriously. They don't fuck around, dude. Cool. And what I can say is, like, after the first season, dude, when you're there right at the end, dude, like, you are so invested in a story, and you're just like, what other choice does she have? And to me, that is a sign of really good storytelling, because obviously suicide is never the answer. But when you're there with her, you're like, holy shit. And it's all very plausible, you know, like, and then the other seasons play out. There's one season where it's very driven into the school shootings, which I thought was done pretty well. Now it wasn't even advertised, but now there's a whole new season. And yeah, it's interesting. It's playing on like after effects of all the stuff that's happened. It's starting to really mess with their minds, and they're starting to like be delusional and stuff. But I've only watched 1 or 2 episodes, so I can't really tell if it's good or not. But that's kind of what Kira and I've been watching, and then playing PlayStation. But side note, dude, and I know it's so random, sorry, but I'll send it to you and you can download it. But I just want to say I'm not to cell phone games. Like it's always been way over my head, dude. Like I've always been like, I just don't care.
Yeah.
And recently Kira's like, download the Call of Duty on your cell phone. So I was like, very hesitantly, I go and I download it. It's actually quite a cool game. And you can all join in and play in little clans and play online together, and you can speak over, because you're on your phone, you can like speak over like I don't even know if it's a WhatsApp call or if it's actually just physically in the group.
Okay.
Yeah, dude, and I got onto my iPad because you got it's the controls are a bit annoying at first because you got to like press something to jump because you're on a screen and not a remote.
Yeah.
But it's actually pretty cool. If anyone's bored and they haven't played it and tried to play it, I can advise it. I think it's cool. But I know that's a departure of what we were talking about. But what else have you been watching, dude? Sorry, I'm rambling.
It's quite cute. I also got a few animated things that I got, some anime ones. I redid the Castlevania. That was by Warren Ellis, the comic book writer, and anime style, based on the old Nintendo games, which was it's a really good anime. I really enjoyed that. One of the better mergings of Western and the Asian type of storytelling in that. Warren Ellis is amazing. A couple of YouTube reviews were mentioning things like Axe Cop, which was like a strange one. It's crazy, weird, animated, kind of like in the vein of Earthworm Jim and Freakazoid in a way. But it's actually the voice of the main character, Axe Cop, is the guy who did the voice, who was Ron Swanson on Parks and Recreation.
Jeez.
I just love him. He's amazing. Ron Swanson is another one of my spirit animals. And he's very good in this Axe Cop. It was enjoyable. And another one was Aeon Flux, which was once upon a time Charlize Theron.
Yeah, I remember the film.
And it was actually a show on MTV. And the cool thing about it was I watched a bit of the history of it. The guy didn't really want it to become a show or serialized. He just wanted to keep telling these little short stories. So Aeon Flux, the main character, always dies in these episodes. And then the mystery is, how is she back for the next one? Is she a clone? Does she somehow respawn, regenerate? They don't tell you. It's just each time there's an episode with her. I mean, there's even one episode where like the show starts and she dies. And the show is more, that particular one is more around the henchman type people than her, actually. So very cool show. And the animation was very ahead of its time. It looks like the same animators that did a cartoon show when I was a kid called Phantom 2020, I think it was.
Jeez.
Based on the character the Phantom. And then same animation team recently did an animation on Riddick that came out just after the movie Pitch Black. I think it was between Pitch Black and then the Chronicles of Riddick. Very cool animation team, very different and ahead of their time. And just watching that got me reminiscing about some of the cartoons and animations that I watched. I think everyone watched growing up as a kid. I mean, me probably more than you. I was more in the generation of Saturday morning cartoons. That was quite a big thing. And they had like the odd ones in the afternoon just before parents' viewing hour. But for us, it was mostly Saturday morning cartoons.
I'm quite keen to see what you mentioned, because if you think about it, I mean, South Africa in particular is really good with repeats. Yeah. So there's a good chance that by the time I was growing up, there was repeats of a lot of stuff that, you know, that you've seen. So, but, you know, I'm sure I can think of a few, but, I mean, name some.
Yeah, for us as kids, I distinctly remember, you know, it's often spoken about the 80s kids genre era. It was very tied into the apparently early 80s or even the 70s. They almost used cartoons as a mechanism to sell stuff to kids. So they would punt and almost brainwash kids around these things, and then the kids would go ask their parents to buy it for them. So around the mid 80s to late 80s, they changed laws and regulations. You weren't allowed to do that. Shows had to have a healthy message for kids, had to, you know, try and teach them something too semi-educational. So the first big one, I think, that came out at that time was He-Man. That was, you know, awesome show, cool animation. This character lifts up a sword, says by the power of Grayskull, turns into this massively super-powered guy who can pretty much beat anybody. And at the end of every episode, there was always a message or a something to that episode, be it friendship, be it honesty, be it loyalty, courage, whatever it was. And there would always be one of the characters, be it He-Man, Man-at-Arms, or someone would then come up and talk to you, the viewer, at the end and teach you about whatever it was that episode was on. Around about the same time was the Transformers, or maybe the Transformers was before. That was probably one that leaned a little bit more heavily into trying to get kids to buy these transformable robots. But I mean, that wasn't even on Saturday mornings. That was, we used to come home from school, and it was on at a certain time on one of the non-English broadcasting channels, and you used to have to get your radio and tune your radio into Radio 2000 to get the English audio track.
Jeez. Heck, dude. Okay, that's before my time, man.
Way before your time, dude. And I remember that I had a specific radio in my house that was set at that thing. So like I could just get home and turn it on, and God help anybody who moved that dial to another radio station. There was that. And then right about the same era, I mean, and I was a typical 80s kid, and I was lucky enough that my parents could get me a lot of that stuff. And I think that's what formed my love for action figures. In that I had the He-Man action figures. I then had, it was a show called BraveStarr.
I remember BraveStarr, funny enough. So somehow I got that.
BraveStarr was awesome, dude, with his horse 3030. And I had a couple of the BraveStarr figures. And apparently that show didn't do very well in America because the main character, Marshall BraveStarr, is actually a Native American Indian. Call it whatever you like, apparently he just didn't fly with a lot of the kids or the parents back then. You know, South Africa, we didn't know any better. For us, he was just a cool guy who had these cool superpowers. So I think the show did a lot better here than it did over there. You know, there was always those more light-hearted fun shows like the Gummy Bears, the Care Bears, the My Little Ponies. I remember my sister used to watch those. I think, what else do we have? There was one called the Galaxy Rangers that I absolutely loved. It was a little bit more, it was almost like Robotech in a way. I don't know if you ever saw Robotech.
Yeah, I did see some of Robotech, but...
That was heavy anime. So Galaxy Rangers was more in the line of that. It's almost like the animators were from an anime type of vein and genre. The spaceships looked very much like they would in Robotech and those types of animes.
Okay.
Mobile Suit Gundam type animation. and about these 4 rangers in sort of, we go out into space, we meet other races, and as this happens, it almost like things take a second evolution where space is the new frontier now, and they're doing mining and stuff, all kinds of resources, and then we have marshals trying to marshal and police the galaxy, and that's where the Galaxy Rangers come in. It was a pretty cool show. Still love that show. I'm trying to think what else. And then, as things went on, it was G.I. Joe. I mean, my all-time favorite, probably. But I don't know. Cartoons I dug, and the animated movie that they did I dug. And it was probably, if I had to pick between favorite animated movies at that time, was either Transformers animated movie or the G.I. Joe one. That certainly stuck with me, those characters. Formed my action figure love by far. And then we kind of had, I can't remember how it happened. It almost kind of like meshed and blurred all those cartoons into almost like the 90s era where you had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles came on the scene and they just blew up. I mean, she's as catchy as some of the 80s theme songs were. I mean, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles theme song was right up there.
Yeah, for sure.
was awesome. I mean, I even had to go out and get all of those action figures. That was, early teens, and I had rocking all my turtle action figures. And that was around about the same time, I think, as the X-Men cartoon show. Maybe the X-Men came out a bit after them. I think Darkwing Duck was around that time too, with the Animaniacs, Pinky and the Brain. So you almost had like this still kind of action-packed set of cartoons trying to appeal to certain kids with the X-Men's, the DC, the Batman animated series, the Justice League Unlimited, all of those shows there. And they were all, God, they were amazing. Stories were incredible. The animation was great. And then you had this other side that was more leaning on comedy, parody, lightheartedness in the Animaniacs, Freakazoid, those kind of wacky cartoon shows. I distinctly remember those. I think around about that time, Cartoon Network started to come up into this country on satellite TV.
That's the thing, dude. Like, I don't remember when and how, but it's all a blur to me. But I just remember vivid, like a combination of things. But like BraveStarr is one of them. So I don't remember which came first. Street Shocks was another one. I watched. Biker Mice from Mars was also a big one for me. Beast Wars, which is... I remember
Biker Mice from Mars actually has like very good stories to it too.
Yeah, dude.
Kooky concept, but I was watching the whole YouTube thing on it. Definitely decent stories, good sound, music and stuff like that, musical scores. A couple comic book writers were writing scripts on Biker Mice, so hard show.
Yeah, and then there was Beast Wars, which was obviously an evolution of Transformers.
Beast Wars was like one of the first to start doing CG computer animation and those things.
Yeah, and then it was a cheesy one, but Captain Planet also, like, I digged when I was a kid.
Dude, have you seen the Don Cheadle comedy Captain Planet, motherfucker?
Oh, yeah, I have. And then, sorry, before, I just don't want to lose the train of thought, but another one, dude, it felt, I obviously can't justify this, but it felt like it came later. And I don't know if it was like in the Scooby-Doo era, but it was Johnny Quest that I also used to watch.
Johnny Quest was quite cool.
Yeah, and then Power Rangers, dude. I always wanted to, when the Green Ranger came in, Tommy, he was like the edgy guy. And he was like, he wasn't the straight up like nerds like the other dudes. And I was like, I want to be like him. He's hardcore.
I never actually got into Power Rangers, but I feel a bit bad because I was on Netflix, that whole The Toys That Made Us documentary series. And I think it was in season 3 that did a whole thing on the Power Rangers toys and the TV show and how all of it came together. And hats off to them. Very, very cool idea, cool concept. And they kind of nailed it with those American actors taking, these parts and then cutting in Japanese action stuff with the guys in the suits. Cool idea.
Yeah, I don't know if their execution, if they were trying to keep kids innocent, but that my natural evolution from Power Rangers, because I used to pretend with friends that I had and pretend fight them and stuff, and it went from that to Mortal Kombat. And I don't know if that's the best route you can go.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat
Fatality.
was quite a jump and quite an extreme jump at that. Yeah, man, and right about, I think just after all of those was on Cartoon Network, we had other types of shows, but still, I distinctly remember, and again, because of my love for them, the Powerpuff Girls, a very unique type of show that went for so many seasons, but always playing on that Trinity trope. The intelligent, sort of brave leader, the sweet and innocent and wanting to love everyone kind of character, and then the hard, edgy, I'm going to beat everyone up kind of character that you often get in comics. That came through there. Then you had some more fun, light-hearted stuff with like the Dexters Labs. Samurai Jack was very...
Yeah, you actually took the words out of my mouth, but yeah.
Yeah, edgy, like hard edge type of show. And then at that same time, dude, I didn't initially get into it, and a friend, RJ Benjamin, he turned me on to Ben 10. And that was a very unique, interesting idea. They did almost like 3 distinct generations of Ben 10. The original one was definitely aimed at young kids. Ben, as a boy, gets his Omnitrix and everything. Then there was one where he's Ben teenager kind of series. And in that series, you know, the original concept of Ben 10 was he had, I think, 10 distinct aliens in this Omnitrix. And whenever he would dial up, he'd hit one and it had certain powers. Then in the teenage one, something happened to his Omnitrix. I'm not too sure of the story, and he almost like certain aliens merged into one another. So the 10 that he originally had, they like kind of merged. 2 of them merged into one, another 2 merged into one, and they became new characters all of their own. And then he got a few new ones added to the Omnitrix. And then the third evolution was him as a young adult, sort of in a near dystopian future where things have gone a bit wrong and he's still trying to fight to save the day and try to find a way to set things back to normal kind of thing. So, like I say, aimed at kids early on, very good idea. And then as it went on, there was more the latter evolutions of Ben 10 that really caught me, where I was like, geez, wow, harder, grittier. It reminded me a lot of the DC animated stuff. Batman, the animated series, the Justice League, it was those kinds of things, or even Young Justice that came out more recently. That's also another great one. So I love those cartoons, dude, and I kind of miss some of them. I think that whole Saturday morning cartoon concept could come back and do really well. I don't know, I'm not too afraid with the networks and how it works now, but I almost get a feel that it's not special anymore for kids like it used to be for us. You know, there were certain times when these things were on, so you had to be home from school at a certain time. You had to make sure your homework was done. If it wasn't, it was a negotiation with your parents that you would do your homework after the cartoons while they were preparing supper or something. And then there was Saturday morning, and Saturday morning it was like, you know, your parents could kind of sleep in or do what they wanted to first thing in the morning while we were glued to the television getting our fix of cartoons. And
yeah, you're right, dude. It's all the anticipation is lost. It's actually quite sad because, I mean, you can't even tell your kid only this day because they're like, no, but it's on demand. You just click and it works.
100%.
So yeah, that is pretty sad now that you mention it.
I think we've lost something in losing scheduled broadcasting hours for those cartoons, the Saturday mornings, etc. It's sad. Yeah.
I know I'm getting deep now, but I want to tie it like back to like, you know, something I mentioned in one of our previous videos, and it's the whole, you know, lack of consequences, but it's also because they've been building a world of convenience. Everything's so damn convenient that you're losing all these nuances, these things that make things special. And I don't know, man. I don't know. Is it worth it? Isn't it? It's, I suppose, only time will tell.
So, if you liked what Mark and I were talking about here, or just like our content in general,
please like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification for more videos.
And yeah, do us a favor and find us on the social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram.
See you in the next video.